This and That and What the Fuck Else, episode 95. The numbers are climbing, and I want to say thank you to those that support the channel. I see the subscriptions is climbing, and I like it. I would appreciate it if you can leave a comment and tell me what you don't like and what you would like to see more of. I'm doing these, I call it news packages, and I also do that what the fuck moments. There's been a few of them, and they are single topic focused things, but it is nice to see that there are people that are enjoying the stuff. It's important to like the episodes, because those likes inspire YouTube to show it to more people. And I would appreciate the like, please. This one will be talking about the pestilence, about the Donbass, energy, and the EU. I am absolutely stunned by what's happening in Europe. I listened to a program that is done by an Indian television channel, and they reckon that between 350 and 400,000 people can die in Europe this winter from cold. That is scary numbers. What really pisses me off is people like that Ursula von der Crazy that carries on with their fucking madness with no regard for the people of Europe. And if the citizens of Europe have not realized by now that you are viewed as expendables by the leadership cabal in Brussels, you are in deeper trouble than I can imagine. And it also looks to me like there is a movement in Germany specifically, I can see messages and notes about that. They want out from under the American grip. The Americans are losing their grip in Africa, they're losing their grip in the Middle East. That American empire is crashing fast, and the Europeans must be fucking careful. They will take you down with them without blinking an eye. They're already stealing all your industries, and you better watch out. Kissinger has said, to be America's enemy is dangerous. To be America's friend is lethal, and we can see it now. Let's start off in Australia. That's another thing that I cannot understand, that the Aussies, I was always under the impression that the Aussies are very similar to us, Afrikaner Boere. But yeah, what they are allowing that government to do to them, the abuse. Here in South Africa, I can understand the abuse that we are suffering because we are 4% of the population and the majority is the abusers. But in Australia, it's your own people abusing you and you're taking it. I'm stupidly stunned by that. Let's look at this. Former Aussie PM's pandemic power grab corroded trust. Scott Morrison fundamentally undermined responsible government by covertly assuming 5 ministerial positions during the COVID pandemic, a report has found, but stopped short of dubbing them illegal. Morrison had claimed the extraordinary measures were to deal with unexpected events such as the sudden illness of his ministers, a claim rejected by the report as having little, if any, connection to the pandemic. Instead, he decided to give himself the capacity to exercise particular statutory powers, the report found, while recommending laws that require the publication of details about the official appointment. I do not understand how the Aussies, and then I see, just this weekend, they fucking voted for that Dan Andrews again. They actually deserve to suffer because they like to suffer. Then this is from the Washington Post. Vaccinated people now make up a majority of the pestilence deaths. Interesting development, if even the Washington Post is now writing about this. But things like this appear, but the people are still lining up. And then there's this data from Pfizer, and you must look at that graphic. You must stop the program and look at that graphic and see what is going on there. It is absolutely horrendous. I cannot understand that parents still do this to their children. And then here's some more. This is from Peter Sweden, and he comes out with good stuff. Why is there so many excess deaths? More people are dying in Europe now than during the pandemic. There was almost a 30% increase in fatal heart attacks among young adults in the US. This is scary information. And if you look at that map, look at that distribution, it is absolutely mind-blowing what is going on. But it doesn't seem like alarm bells are ringing. And then we go to the Donbass, and this is extremely disturbing. A Russian volunteer reveals that his forces came across a Ukrainian Satanist children's organ harvesting network in Izium. Ukraine for several decades has been a hot zone for human trafficking and organ harvesting. I wonder why the globalists are propping up that criminal regime. And I've asked that question many times in many of my Skidmarks. What the fuck is the West trying to hide there? They are literally bankrupting themselves and they are disarming themselves. For what? Then there's this. Use of babies killed for stem cell treatment and organ trafficking in Ukraine. September 29 to 2011. One of the allegations made is that a Ukrainian hospital in Kharkov has induced the abortion of baby fetuses so that Ukrainian clinics can use those organs. And then there's this on RT. Ukraine becomes Europe's capital of organ trafficking. It's also a 2011 post. Ukraine becomes Europe's capital of organ trafficking, currently on trial, accused of conducting more than 50 illegal donor surgeries. And then we've got this. Surgeon arrested in Ukraine for selling transplant organs. Donors were recruited and paid up to $10,000 for their kidneys and other organs. Ukraine's interior ministry says 4 surgeons and 4 others have been arrested for taking part in a scheme to recruit organ donors from former Soviet countries and transplant the organs into wealthy foreigners. The head of the Ministry Department on Human Trafficking says the scheme was headed by an Israeli who was arrested last month. Kusher said yesterday that they sought mostly kidneys from people in Ukraine and other countries. Most of those who sold their organs for up to $10,000 were impoverished young women. This is absolutely horrible. And then we've got this. One of the most stunning statistics so far in this war is that whereas Russian missing are numbered in the dozens, Ukrainian missing are up to 380,000 and increasing every week. Add to that, at least 100,000 killed in action and 300,000 wounded in action. It is a shocking massacre, and that fucking Zelensky keeps on throwing his people into the meat grinder. Kherson City sympathizers for Russia complicate integration into Ukraine. Western media went crazy and started telling the truth. They acknowledged that the Ukrainians themselves accepted Russian passports, that the city had electricity and water, that Kherson is a Russian port which was built by Catherine the Great, and Putin handed out humanitarian aid, paid salaries and pensions, and sent the children on vacation in the Crimea. And it's not a joke. Locals say that the Russian authorities helped people while sympathizers were waiting for the armed forces of Ukraine. I said it, that Kherson was a poison chalice. Then we have this. Look at those people. They are the people that were marked as collaborators by the Ukrainian military, and they were killed. Photo of the aftermath of the filtration in Kharkov region. After the liberation of the villages, Nazis from AFU, with the participation of thugs from Kharkov National Security Force, conducted mass cleansing operations, followed by the execution of civilians whom they considered to be collaborators. No one conducts an investigation or trial as typical of the Nazis. This is yet another confirmation of the numerous war crimes committed by the Ukrainian formations. And then this image, I'm just showing this image. This is the progress of the repair of that bridge, the Crimean bridge. And once again, they did this in 6 weeks, and our own Eskom wants fucking 1 year to fix a pipe on a chimney stack. And then we get this, and this was also, I found it interesting. Karma strikes back. Afghans now help Putin with a special unit trained by NATO. The US has spent $90 billion on training 25,000 elite Afghan soldiers, and it is precisely this special unit that will now support the Russian armed forces in the war against Ukraine. Guterres sorcerer's apprentice sent his regards. The ghost of NATO, once called forth, are now fighting NATO military advisors. Guys, this is what is going on in the Ukraine is a fuck up of note. And whether they want to acknowledge it or not, NATO is fighting there against the Russians, and they're losing. And that is what makes them bitter. And then we have this from Mariupol. You can look at these images. Reconstruction of Mariupol continues. And here's a better image of that, 2 housing complexes. It's great what the Russians are doing there. And then we get to the energy build-up, and I show this picture. You must share this with your European friends. This is how they can go back to the Stone Age and at least look modern. This is a rocket stove. Very cheap to run because it doesn't consume a lot of wood, and it does provide a lot of heat for cooking food. And then we get this. Australian MP alleges coal exporters are using fake data on clean coal in pursuit of profit. Australia has been peddling claims that it has some of the cleanest coal on the planet, but now a whistleblower has thrown soot all over those supposedly clean credentials. What can you expect? People lie. That's what they do. And then we get to that idiot from the UK. Slash energy used at home to beat Putin, urges hunt. Chancellor appeals on households as French nuclear reactor delays herald challenging winter. The households. The fucking households. They must save energy. The households. There's people living in those houses that he want to trim out of their energy. But I have done a Skidmark on that. You can go and look at it. There's one I did on the UK, one on the EU, and one on the politicians. You must look at those what the fuck moments. There's a lot of information, a lot of truth there. This UK cabal, it's in any case not elected leadership, it's installed leadership. And they don't give a shit. They don't care for the people. And then I posted this on Twitter, and I got some quite interesting responses. We are a BRICS partner. Where is our cheap Russian oil? Are the cadres busy stealing the discount? Why can't the police not stop the crime at Eskom? Is Cyril executing the WEF agenda on our energy network? What the fuck gaan hier on? And there was quite a few hilarious responses. And then we have this. Chairman of the ECR group, Professor Legutko, took the floor of the European Parliament and said, the Parliament has abandoned the basic function of representing people. Instead, it has become a machine to implement the so-called European project. The Parliament has become a political vehicle of the left. Took them a while to figure that shit out. The European Commission is exploring legal options to confiscate Russian state and private assets as a way to pay for Ukraine's reconstruction. The goal would be identifying ways to strengthen the tracing, identification, freezing and management of assets as preliminary steps for potential confiscation. The potential bounty would consist of nearly $300 billion frozen Russian central bank assets, as well as assets and revenues of individuals. And it's all they're doing, they are stealing. And this is that Ursula von der Crazy's big plan. And Alex has baptized her the Pirate of Brussels. This is what they're doing. They are stealing Russian assets. That's all. Now they try to cloak it in a legal blanket. But they are stealing assets. France, second schoolgirl murdered and raped in weeks. Police arrested a 31-year-old man on Friday in the south of France after he had raped, then murdered a 14-year-old girl after abducting her in his car outside her school. Now, I have done a skidmark on that as well. Europe, you're in for a rough ride. European women, your lives are in danger. Take it from a boer, you are in danger. Croatian president rejects training of Ukrainian soldiers in Croatia. In a statement, the president's office said that the defense minister is not authorized to request such an approval, as according to the constitution, only the president, the Croatian government and the Croatian parliament can make such a decision. And there's another country that is not happy to play this stupid fucking game any longer. And then from Maria Zakharova, I propose to recognize the European Parliament as a sponsor of idiocy. And I had a good laugh when I read this. Russia responds to the EU sponsor of terrorism resolution. The European Parliament, which on Wednesday adopted a non-binding resolution branding Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, should be designated a sponsor of idiocy, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said. The move is largely symbolic, but the document urged member states to develop a new legal framework which would allow the blacklisting on terrorism grounds, not just individuals or organizations, but entire nations. The EU have lost their marbles, but I think they realize it, and they are now in a mode of flat fucking panic. That is what they are. And then we've got this Ursula von der Crazy. EU will not rest until Ukraine wins military victory over Putin. Ursula von der Leyen also said EU already working on a 9th package of sanctions. Update. We are working hard to hit Russia where it hurts, to blunt even more its capacity to wage war in Ukraine. This woman is fucking crazy. She is taking Europe to hell. And it seems to me the citizens like it in that bus. You better wake up before it is too late. And then we get to that what a fuck moment, and what else? I have to use this von der Crazy again, and I just had to use this cartoon and share it with you, and look at her, and clutching that 9th package of sanctions in her claws there. This woman is fucking dangerous. But let's see what the new week brings. I thank you for your support. Please give me a like and a subscribe, and enjoy your evening. En vir die Afrikaners, good night. Nee man, lekker slaap vir julle.